Now let me start with the today's session. So as I told, we are going to do the automation only with the help of the WebDriver. Okay. And we call this WebDriver as an interface. So we are having an interface in a Selenium called as an WebDriver, and only with the help of the interface we are going to do the automation. So we need to know, so like what is mean by interface, and before that, like we need to know the basic flow. So how we are going to do the automation, or how it is going to execute the automation. So generally, like we are going to do the coding. So whenever we are going to do the coding, so the coding is going to run over the browser. Okay, so it will use to run in the any of the browser. So like it can be run in the Chrome, Edge, Firefox, etc. So whatever the browser the user is specifying, so it will run the code in the specific browser. But whenever the code interact directly with the browser, it is creating a lot of security violation. And in order to avoid the security violation, so each and every browser company has introduced something called as an driver. Okay, so like the Chrome has introduced the Chrome driver, and then the Edge has introduced the Edge driver. The Firefox has introduced the Gecko driver, and the Safari browser has introduced the Safari driver. Okay, so if we need to interact with the browser with the help of the coding, so we should initially interact with the respective driver, and then like we need to interact with the respective browser. Okay, so that like one and only if you use the corresponding driver, you can able to communicate with the respective browser. Okay, and how the WebDriver is going to play the role over here. So before that, like let me just give you one more example. So let's take the like our mobile phone as an example, in which like we will be using the SIM. So with the help of the SIM, like we can able to like communicate with the network provider. So communicate with the network provider in the sense, so what are the basic action we used to do? So we can do the call, and then like we can do the text message. So with the SMS service will be enabled, and then like we may use the internet service. So the call service, the SMS service, and the internet service will work. So irrespective of any SIM which we insert. So even like if you are able to insert the Airtel SIM, so using the Airtel SIM, we can do this operation. And if you use any other network provider like Jio or the BSNL or the VA, so these are the different network providers which are available in the India. So whenever we insert any of the SIM, so like if we insert the Airtel SIM, yes, we are able to do the call, SMS, and internet. And if you are able to insert the Geo, so we may able to do the call, SMS, and internet. In similar way, so whatever the network provider, which is nothing but whatever the SIM which we are inserting, so the user can do this common action, call on SMS and internet. Even if a new SIM is going to introduce in the market, so whenever the new SIM is introduced in the market, so whenever they develop the new SIM, so inside which they will amend this feature, so call, SMS, and internet. And if you see, so the SIM is a single port, and inside the single port, we can use any of the network provider. So if we insert the Airtel, so the Airtel will work. So if we insert the Geo, so the Geo will work. If we insert the BSNL, so the BSNL will work. And here the SIM is acting as an interface. Okay. So why we are telling this as an interface in the sense, because like it is able to handle multiple network provider. And how it is able to handle the multiple network provider, and what is meant by interface? So generally with the help of the interface, we are going to set the standard. Okay, so we are going to set some standards. So standard in the sense, like these are the standard, like we have set the standard, like, so the user should be able to make a call, SMS, and they should access the internet. So these are the standard we are setting in the interface, setting with the help of the interface. So generally we call this interface as an abstraction. So abstraction means, so technically we call it as an empty methods. So inside the interface, so they will be creating the empty methods. So let's say, so we are having the call method, SMS method, and the internet method. So these are purely a empty method. So no body is present. Okay. So no body means, so we don't have any code inside it. So body in the sense, so how we used to traditionally create the method. So we will be creating the method and we will be creating the block for the method. So this we call it as an body, and inside which like we will be writing the coding. But when it is of an interface, so everything will be like kind of an empty method, and we call the empty method as an abstraction. So generally the interface is an abstraction. So abstraction means inside which it will have the empty methods. Okay. So why they have created the empty methods? Because like to set the standard. So whenever, okay, so any of the network providers introduced. So let's say if you are having the Airtel or the Jio or the BSNL, so whatever the network provider we have, so inside each and every network provider, so they will be implementing the respective standard. So they will be having the call method, they will be having the SMS method, and they will be having the internet method, and inside which, so the coding will be present. Okay. So inside which the coding will be present. So coding in the sense, like whenever we insert this Airtel SIM, so we are using the call method which is provided inside the Airtel SIM. So which means like inside which they have written the coding. So to communicate to the Airtel network provider. So that is the reason like we are able to enable the all services like call, SMS, and internet. In similar way, like inside the Geo method, like we will be having, so sorry, inside the Geo SIM, like we will be having same methods, like we will be having the call, SMS, and the internet. So where the coding will be present. So which is nothing but they have implemented the method. So the respective corresponding coding will be present, and whenever we do the call, so whenever we insert the Geo SIM and whenever we do the call, so it will refer to the call method which is present inside the Geo SIM, and it will communicate to the respective network provider, and the user can able to do the call successfully. Okay. So now why they have structurized in this way? So like why inside each and every SIM card, so they have created this method. So the reason is like to achieve the reusability. So let's say if you don't have an interface, so if you don't have the interface, so like in initial days, right? So how it work? So we may have some SIM port. If the SIM port is not acting as an interface, so consider if the mobile manufacturing company is manufacturing any of the SIM. So in this particular SIM port, so only the Airtel will work. And in similar way, like they will be creating another SIM port for another network provider. So let's say they are creating for the BSNL. In similar way, while manufacturing the mobile, so they will creating multiple SIM port. So like for the Geo. So whenever the new network provider introduced in the market, so we are ended up in a situation like we need to specify like a separate SIM port for each and every network provider. So if this is the case, like whenever the mobile manufacturer company manufactures, so based upon the number of network provider in the respective country, so they need to create the SIM port accordingly. So they should have multiple SIM port. But if they have a multiple SIM port, then what happen? So like obviously like it is going to increase the size as well as like it is going to increase the cost, and as well as like the maintenance is bit difficult. So in order to avoid this complexity, so they have come up with the single interface. Okay, so they have come up with a single interface called as an SIM port. So with the help of the single interface, so the user can able to handle, which means the interface can able to handle any of the network provider. So whenever we insert the geo, so we can able to do the call, SMS and internet. And if you remove the geo SIM and if you insert the BSNL SIM, yes, even with the help of the BSNL SIM, so we can able to make a call, and then we can able to make the SMS, and we are able to access the internet service. So how we are able to achieve this in the sense, because with the help of the interface, we are setting the standard. So inside this SIM port, so we have set the standard, which is nothing but we have created the abstract method, like we are having the call method. So we may have the SMS method, and then we may have the internet method. Okay, so we have set the standard inside the interface, and technically inside each and every SIM, like we will be having the call method, we will be having the SMS method, we will be having the internet method. So with the help of the interface, we are going to implement the methods. Okay, so whatever the methods which is provided inside the network provider, we are going to implement the method. And once the methods are implemented, and inside this method, right, we are having the coding, and we can able to do the call, SMS and internet. So when we insert the geo SIM, so what happened? We are implementing the call method which is present in the geo, and we are implementing the SMS method which is present inside the geo. And in similar way, if I remove the geo SIM and if I insert the Airtel SIM, so then obviously like as we have set the standard. So whenever we set the standard, so for sure, like whenever the new network providers introduced, so they should have the coding part of this particular method. So they should have the call method and the SMS method and the internet method. So whenever we insert this Airtel method, so now what happened? We are implementing the methods which is present inside the Airtel. Okay, so this is just a non-technical example. So now let me just try to relate with the conceptual part. So like at the high level, we get to know, so interface is an abstraction, and abstraction means like inside which we will be having the empty methods. So inside the interface, we will be having the empty methods. So now how it is going to help us in an automation. Okay, so whenever we are going to use something more frequently, so we should create an object. Okay, so like what is the need of object creation in a programming language, in the sense like whenever we create an object, so it will allocate a specific memory, or we can say it will allocate the dedicated space. So at the back end, it will be allocating the dedicated space. So whenever the dedicated space is allocated, so we can call them whenever required. So for example, let's take a kitchen as an example. Okay, so we are having a kitchen. So inside the kitchen, like we may have multiple ingredients, like let's say you are having the pepper, oil, salt, etc. So whenever you are doing the cooking, so the cooking will make bit easier when you know where the pepper is present, where the oil is present, and where the soil is present. So for sure, in our kitchen, like we have provided the dedicated space for this each and every ingredient. So as we have provided the dedicated space, so while doing the cooking, so if you need a pepper, like we can easily know where the pepper is present and we will access the pepper and we will be use it for our cooking. And in similar way, like if you need an oil, we know where exactly the oil is present, because in our kitchen, like we have allocated the dedicated space and we will be taking the oil and we will be using the cooking. So how the cooking became easier in the sense, because like we know where everything is present. But if we don't allocated any dedicated space for the ingredient, then what happened? So while doing the cooking, so we don't know where the ingredients are present. So it is going to slow down the cooking or it is going to spoil our cooking. And how we can fasten our cooking in the sense, like we can allocate the dedicated space in the kitchen. So in similar way, in a programming language, so whenever we are going to use something more frequently, so we should dedicate a specific space. And how we are going to dedicate a specific space in the sense by creating an object. So for example, if I need to allocate a dedicated space for a pepper, I need to create an object for the pepper. And how we are going to create an object in the sense with the help of the new keyword. Okay, so whenever we use a new keyword, so technically indicates you are creating an object which directly indicates like you are allocating a specific memory. So for pepper, I'm going to create an object. So how we can create an object in the sense, so I'm just giving the name of the pepper, and whenever we are going to use something, like I'm just going to give the variable name and post that like I'm going to use the keyword called as a new, and when I say new of pepper, it indicates like you have created the object for this pepper. Okay, so in similar way, like what I'm going to do, so I'm going to create the object for the oil. So I'm using the oil and I can give some variable name O is equal to new of oil. In similar way, like if I need to create an object for myself, so let's say I'm creating the object for myself, Aravind A is equal to new of Aravind. So which means like whenever we are creating an object, it technically indicates like we are allocating a specific memory. So why we are allocating the specific memory in the sense, so that like whenever we require, we can access the respective thing and we can speed up the coding. So how we are speeding up the cooking. So like in similar way, like whenever the object is created, so we can reuse, we can call them whenever required. Okay. So here you could see for each and everything, so we are creating the object. Okay, so which means like we are allocating the specific memory and whenever required we are going to access the same. So here we are going to do the network communication only with the help of the SIM port. So what I can do, I can create the object for the SIM port. So how I create the object, SIM SS equal to a new of SIM. Okay, so this is how like we will be creating the object. But here we need to note one more point, like we can't create the object for the interface. Okay, so we can't create the object for the interface. So whenever we are going to use something more frequently, we should create an object. So here we are going to handle everything with the help of the SIM card. So I thought of creating the object for the SIM card, but I am adding up one more point. So stating that like we can't create the object for the interface. So one and only if we create an object, right? So we can call those methods and we can reuse them whenever required. But here we can't create an object because like the SIM card is acting as an interface. In similar way here, right? So the traditional flow. So we are going to do the coding and we are going to run our coding in a multiple browser. So how we are having multiple SIM card, in similar way like we will be having the multiple driver, and in order to handle the multiple driver, so we are having one interface called as an WebDriver. Okay, so here the SIM card, the SIM port is acting as the interface. So because like with the help of this single SIM port, we can able to handle multiple SIM card like Airtel, Jio and BSNL VI. In similar way, like here we are going to introduce the interface called as an WebDriver, and with the help of this interface, so we can use any of the driver. So why we are using the driver in the sense? Because as I told, so whenever we are doing the coding, it won't directly run in the browser. It will communicate to the respective driver and the respective driver will be communicate to the respective browser. So here the SIM port is going to acting as an interface. So which means like we are going to do the automation only with the help of the WebDriver, because like only with the help of the WebDriver we are communicating with the web browser. So whenever we are going to use something, so we need to create an object. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an object for an interface. So WebDriver, I'm giving some variable name. So driver is equal to new of WebDriver. So I'm trying to create an object for an interface, but I told we can't create an object for an interface. So now let me try the statement in my coding. So I'm just opening my IntelliJ. Let me add a new package. Okay, so let the package name be the basic automation, and inside which I will add. So let the class name be the browser. Okay, invocation. And whenever we need to run the specific class, we need to create a method. I'm adding the main method, and inside the main method, like I'm going to create an object for an interface, which is nothing but we are going to use the interface called as a WebDriver, and with the help of the WebDriver we are going to do the automation. As we are going to reuse this WebDriver more frequently, I'm going to create an object for the interface. Okay, so we are able to use the keywords of the Selenium because in the last class, so we have added the dependency in the pom.xml file. Okay, so I'm giving the variable name is equal to new of WebDriver. I'm trying to create an object. So whenever there is an error, place the mouse over the keyword and click on the import statement. Okay, so automatically what happened? So the import statement will be added up. So I'm just clicking on import class. So the import statement is added up. So even after adding the import statement, it is throwing the error in line number 9. So if I place my mouse over it, it says WebDriver is an abstract and can't be installation. So which means, as I told, so abstraction means it's technically indicates it's an interface. It is telling us like we can't create an object for an interface. But one and only if we create the object, right? So we can call the methods more frequently. So whatever the reusable methods we have, we can call them more frequently, because if I try to create an object for the SIM, it technically indicates like we are initializing the methods present inside the interface. But what are the different types of methods which is present inside the interface? So it is an call method, SMS method and internet method. But these methods are empty methods, right? So even like if we initialize those method, it doesn't have any coding. So which means like we can't establish the communication. And if we need to establish the communication, we should use the methods which are present inside the respective SIM. Okay, so whenever the Airtel SIM introduced in the market, so they will create the Airtel class, and in similar way, so the Geo will create the Geo class, and the BSNL will create the BSNL class. And I already told multiple times, so the class contains method. So inside the class, so it have a multiple methods like call method, SMS method, and internet method. So rather than creating the object for the interface, we are going to create the object for the respective class. So if you need to use the Airtel SIM, so rather than creating the object for the SIM port, which is nothing but rather than creating the object for the interface, with the help of the interface, so we are creating the object for the respective network provider. Okay, so which means technically what we are doing here is like we are implementing the interface. So there is a word, technical word called as an implements. So generally we always implement the interface. And how we are going to implement the interface in a sense, with the help of the class. Okay, or we can say with the help of the class. So whenever we implement the class, automatically, so the methods inside the class gets implemented. So when I access the call method, so technically we are accessing the call method which is present inside the Airtel SIM. So when we remove the Airtel SIM and if we insert the Geo SIM, even like if I use the call method, it will work because same the call method is present inside the Geo class as well. Because with the help of the interface, we have set the standard. So we have set the standard. So whenever they are creating the new class, whenever the new network provider is introduced in the market, so let's say some new SIM called as an alpha is going to introduce in the market, which means so like they will create the alpha class, and inside the alpha class, so they will refer the interface and they will refer the standard, whatever the standard is present inside the interface, and they will be implementing those standard in their class. So that is the reason like we are able to establish the communication. So even if I remove the GeoSIM and if I insert the BSNL, so what we are doing? So we are implementing the interface with the help of the class called as an BSNL. So whenever the class is implemented, so the method present inside the class are implemented, and when we say call, so it is going to use the call method present inside the BSNL class. When we say the SMS, it is going to use the SMS method which is present inside the BSNL class. So as we are unable to create the object for an interface, so rather than creating the object for the interface, so how we are creating the object for the respective SIM card here, as we are unable to create the object for an interface called as an WebDriver, so we are going to create the object for the driver class. Okay, so these are the driver class which are available inside the Selenium. Okay, so when I say class, obviously like class contains methods. Okay, so as part of our training, so we are going to learn the methods present inside this driver class, and with the help of these methods we are going to do the automation. So why we are creating the object for the respective driver class in the sense, because like we can't create the object for an interface, but we need to do the automation only with the help of an interface. So rather than creating the object for an interface, we are creating the object for the respective driver class. If I need to run my script in Chrome browser, I should use the ChromeDriver. Okay, if I need to run my script in Edge browser, then I should use the Edge driver. So whenever we use the respective driver, right, what happened? So technically, as we have created an object, or in other language we can say we are implementing the class with the help of the interface. So which means we are implementing the WebDriver class with the help of the WebDriver interface. So whenever the class is implemented, the method present inside the class are implemented, and with the help of the implemented methods, we are going to do the automation. So generally, we are going to code against the interface. Okay. So now let's go back to the IntelliJ. So here, rather than creating the object for the interface, I'm going to create an object for the respective driver class. So when I say ChromeDriver, okay, so here everything you will be getting as a suggestion, but make sure, like as I told, it is a class, so you know the naming conversion of the class. So the class name should be always in the Pascal case. So based upon the naming conversion, you can easily identify so whether it is a class or method. Okay, so here you could see in the ChromeDriver, C start with a capital letter and D start with a capital letter. Even from the suggestion, you can choose it up, or whenever you are going to type manually, so please follow the appropriate naming conversion, and after that place the mouse over it and import the statement. So which means, like, we are implementing the respective driver class with the help of the interface called as an WebDriver. So which means, like, we are going to do the automation only with the help of the WebDriver, as we have implemented. So all the methods present inside this driver class, the ChromeDriver class, will be implemented, and we can access the method as we have created the object with the help of the new keyword. So now what happened? So the corresponding knowledge will be stored in the variable, because I told the variable holds the value. So what is the variable name? So we call it as a driver. When I say driver dot, so these are the implemented methods which are available inside the ChromeDriver, and we are going to use this implemented method, and which we are going to do the automation. Even instead of the ChromeDriver, if I use something called as an WebDriver, okay, so we can able to access the implement method, and you could see the same method is present, like find element, get title, quit, etc. Instead of the WebDriver, if I use the Safari, even the same method is present, because with the help of an interface, we have set the standard. So as the standard is set in the insert interface, which is nothing but we have created the empty methods. So whenever the new browser is introduced and whenever they creating the new driver class, so they will create the methods which are present in the interface. Okay, so we are going to access the implemented method, and with the help of the implemented method, we are going to do the automation. So now after adding this particular piece of code, like if you right click and if you run, so how we run? So just I'm doing the right click and there is an option called as an run. If you click on the run, it will automatically invoke the Edge browser. And how the browser invocation occurs in the sense, like with the help of the interface called as an WebDriver. You could see automatically it is opening the Microsoft Edge and it is showing the pop-up. The Microsoft Edge is being controlled by the automated test software. Okay, so like which means you have opened this Edge browser with the help of the automation, which is nothing but with the help of the WebDriver. So now instead of this Edge driver, if I say like ChromeDriver, okay, so if I right click and run this program, so now what happened? Like it will invoke the Chrome browser. Okay, so whatever the browser we need, so like we need to use the appropriate driver. And in older Selenium version, so we need to download the drivers and we need to place it in our coding. But in the latest Selenium version, so if you inject the same line as a single line, so we can open the Chrome or we can open the Edge, or even like if we give the Safari driver, it will open the Safari driver. But make sure the respective browser is present in your system. So if you are going to use the Chrome driver, the Chrome should be present. If you are going to use the Edge, Edge should be present. If you are going to use the Gecko, the Firefox should be present. If you are going to use the Safari driver, the Safari browser should be present. Okay, so that the invocation will occur. And another point is like, so you should have the updated browser version. So like you should not have the outdated browser version. So like in order to Selenium to work, so you should have always the updated version. So make sure the respective browser is up to date. So one and only if the browser is up to date, so you can able to like invoke the browser. So the invocation is like, so which is nothing but we are opening the browser. And how we achieve this invocation in the sense only with the help of the interface called as an WebDriver. Okay, so now after invoking, so we may navigate to the respective web page. So like respective web page in the sense the URL which we are going to use for the testing. So let's say like if you are planning to navigate to this login.salesforce, and how we are going to navigate to this respective URL in the sense with the help of the method called as an get. Okay, so there is a method present inside the Selenium, so which we call it as a get method, and with the help of the get method we can pass the URL, which means like the get method will available inside the interface as well as it will be available inside the respective driver class, but inside the interface it will be like kind of an empty method. Okay, but whereas inside the respective class, so the actual coding will be present, and as we have created an object which is nothing but as we have implemented the interface with the help of the class, so we are going to use the methods present inside the class, and the same method will be present in all driver class. So whatever the WebDriver you're going to use, either the Chrome driver or Edge driver or Safari driver or the Firefox driver. So we are going to launch the URL only with the help of the get method. Okay, so as I told, so we are going to do the coding against the interface, but while using the method, so you should observe one thing. So either it is a parameterized method or non-parameterized method. Okay, so what is meant by parameterized method or non-parameterized method in the sense? So when I simply mention like get of, so inside the open and close bracket nothing is mentioned. So if nothing is mentioned, it is a non-parameterized method, which means it is having 0 parameter. But in some cases they may mention like get string a, or in some cases it will be like get int a. So whenever they mention something inside the open and close bracket, we call it as an parameterized method. And how many parameter is present? So one parameter is present. So whenever the parameter is present, so like we need to inject the input. So technically we call the input as an argument. Okay, and what is the argument which is present? So we need to pass a string argument. So string in the sense, so we should pass the input inside the double quotes. So in this case, right, this get method is having one parameter, which means the user should pass an one argument. And what is the data type they need to use? So as it is of an integer, so they can use inject the numerical value inside this method. And few methods will have an multiple parameter. So let's say it's having two parameter, int a and int b. So based upon the number of parameter, so we should inject the argument. So here we are having two parameters, so which means like we need to pass the two argument, so which is nothing but, so we need to pass an two input value, let's say 2,3. So considering this basic, so now we are going to do the automation only with the help of the WebDriver. And what is the variable name of the WebDriver? So we call it as a driver. So if I say driver dot, so inside which like we may have the method called as an get. Okay, but the get method is like kind of an parameterized method because they have mentioned it as a string. So when it is of a string, so the user should inject the string input. Okay, so because they need to pass the string argument. So as it is of a string, so you know if it is of a string, we should pass in the double quotes, and inside the double quotes I am passing the respective URL. And if I right click and run the program, so it will open the browser and it will navigate to the respective URL. And how it navigate to the respective URL in the sense, because we are accessing the implemented method. So the get method is present inside the ChromeDriver, and with the help of it, like we are able to navigate to the respective URL. Even if I change this to the edge driver, and if I right click and rerun this program, so now what happened? Even in the edge browser, it will open the URL. And how this it is able to achieve this in the sense, because the same get method is present inside the edge driver class. Because as we are implementing with the help of the interface, inside the interface, like we have the empty methods, which is nothing but we have set the standard, and as the standard is set, so whenever the new driver is introduced, so inside the driver they will be having the corresponding implemented method, so which is nothing but they will be having the get method as well. So we are accessing the implemented method and we are doing the automation. Okay, so likewise we are going to learn one by one method and we are going to do the automation. And how we are doing the automation in the sense, only with the help of the interface. And as we are unable to create an object for an interface, we have created the object for the respective driver class, which is nothing but we are implementing the interface with the driver class. And whenever we create an object, it technically indicates like you are initializing the class present inside the, you are initializing the methods present inside the class, which means the get method will be initialized, and even like if I create an object for the sim, right, so it will initialize the call method, it will initialize the sim method, it will initialize the internet method, and as it is initialized we can reuse anytime, because like we have created an object and we have created the dedicated space. Okay, so now even here, right, so like you are going to um, do the cooking, but while doing the cooking, so we may need the pepper, we may need the oil, and we may need the salt, etc. But if we create an object for each and everything, obviously like it is going to create um, a huge memory consumption, is right. And how we can avoid that in the sense, so rather than creating the object for each and every item. So here, rather than creating the object for Airtel, Jio, BSNL, or rather than creating the object for the Chrome, Edge, Gecko driver, because like whenever we create a individual object, it technically indicates like we are allocating the dedicated space. Obviously, like it is going to increase the size and the cost. In programmatical language, we can say it is going to increase the maintenance activity. And how we can avoid in the sense, with the help of an interface. So we can say here the cooking is going to acting as an interface, and I can say I'm trying to create an object for an interface, but we can't create an object for an interface, right? So I'm just creating the object for the pepper. So whatever the ingredient we are going to use, so we are going to implement the respective ingredient over here. Okay, so in the cooking, so if I need a pepper, so I can use the pepper, and while doing the cooking, if I need the oil, I can use the oil. If I need the salt, I can use the salt. Okay, rather than creating the individual object, so we are going to implement the respective class with the help of the interface. Okay, so this is how like we start the basic coding. Okay, so basically, so we are doing the coding only with the help of the interface. Even like when you type the WebDriver, you could see the suggestion it is displaying as I. I indicates is an interface, and we can't create an object for an interface. We are going to create an object for the respective driver class with the help of the keyword called as an new, and post that like with the help of an interface, we are going to do an automation, and the variable name of the interface is driver. And as we have used interface, it has implemented with the help of the ChromeDriver class, and we can access the method which is present inside the ChromeDriver class. When I say driver.get, it indicates like you are referring the methods which is present inside the implemented class, which is nothing but we are doing the coding against the interface, and you can pass the respective URL inside it, and you can just right click and run the program. Okay, so this is the basic thing. So we are going to do the automation only with the help of the WebDriver. So that is the reason, like, we have created an object. As we can't create the object for an interface, we have created the object for the respective driver class. For time being, like, what you guys can do, so if you need to run in the Chrome, you can use the ChromeDriver. If you need to run in the Edge, so you can change to Edge driver. But in further classes, I will do the code optimization, and like we can run the same script in the multiple browser. As I told, we can do the cross browser testing easily with the help of Selenium. So I will be covering few Java concepts, and those are like I will be creating many reusable functions. And while creating the reusable functions, so depend upon the user need. If you need to run in the Edge, you can run in the Edge, Chrome, etc. But as of now, like let's stick with any one of the WebDriver. So whatever the driver you are comfortable, so either you can use the Edge or you can use the Chrome, and we can start the basic automation. And in the further session, let me enhance the coding. Okay, so till this point, does anyone have any doubt?